What if she's awake?
All the time, and I'm gonna bring her to you, and you're gonna
I
have to
don't
be
mind. I
you're
will
gonna have to
hold
be
her.
exhausted all the time too, because we're gonna share
I'm
the
fine with that. That's okay.
responsibilities.
It's totally fine.
Hazel Megan is
She's
gonna
not.
be really bad.
She's not babysitting. She's a parent.
She's a parent
Stop.
too. She's
Stop calling
co-parenting.
Megan.
Yeah.
Stop saying she's babysitting. It's just like how they do dads. You know?
Yes.
She's not a babysitter.
She's co-parenting.
We're talking about our baby.
Hazel Megan.
Wow. So, hi, this is the Witch's Magic Murder
Hey.
Mystery Podcast.
I'm Kara.
I'm Megan.
I'm very pregnant.
Let's. And I am not.
I haven't seen you in a long time, and I
know.
just want to say thanks.
I noticed yesterday, I spent the day with my papa yesterday.
It was, oh man,
It was the best
the
thing.
cutest.
He took me to, so my grandmother, Vera, she died almost 12 years ago. I think I've talked about her a million times. She was just a big, huge part of my life.
Very special to you.
I love her so much. So he wanted to show me where she came from, right?
Which
and where
is
she was born.
The cutest little sentiment I've ever heard.
She was born in a holler in eastern Kentucky. It's called Sassafras Holler.
Yeah.
It's in Kingdom Come, near Kingdom Come Creek. I have no idea if we have any listeners in eastern Kentucky or that area, but I was there all day yesterday.
Yeah.
I drove for 12 hours and didn't end up in Florida.
No.
Which just seems unfair, but
yeah.
It was also the perfect day to go. The trees are the perfect color.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It was amazing.
Especially out there, yeah.
And Papa said, if he said it once, he said it a million times. Look at all the colors. It was great. He was so happy.
That's what they love to do. They love to sit outside and just be in nature.
He's 91 years old, and it was a good reminder that, like, he has this perspective of how all we really did was drive around, and he showed me some things that were amazing, and I loved every second of it. But, like, he didn't need any more than that. Like, he was
just wanted the time.
Perfectly content. Yeah. Yes, it's an appreciation of time that I think we forget.
Yeah.
That the world makes you forget. But when you're 91, it's like, you got nothing but time, right?
Yeah,
like,
what are you gonna do?
Time is precious, and it's like, you're going to spend it doing.
You're going to absorb everything you love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was
It was
a great day.
Oh.
Anyway, I also have actual podcast business to tell you.
Right. My gosh.
There's been a change in the Patreon subscription date that I wanted to tell you all because I made a big point about how if you're going to subscribe to Patreon, you might want to wait until the beginning of the month because no matter what day you joined, it was going to charge you again on the first day of the month. That's changed. Whatever day you sign up on. So if you were to sign up on October 13th, then you won't be charged again until November 13th. It's just going to charge you the day you join and then every month on that date.
Right.
Which is the way it should have worked all along.
Yeah.
They just didn't have that capability until now. So I thought that was the best update, and I was really excited and ready to tell all of you. So
everybody needs to know.
Yes. Now, if you're already on the Patreon, you're just going to keep being charged on the first day of the month. Okay. The other thing is we got this email from, nope. I should have had it. I think I almost had it pulled up. So we got an email from Annie Hamilton. This is about Leah Smock from episode 140. And I just want to read it real quick because there were a couple corrections to our episode and little updates that she just learned. So she said, "Good afternoon. I wanted to thank you for the podcast on Leah Smock. I am the writer of Weird Meade County and also the director of tourism in Meade County."
How fun.
Weird Meade County was one of the sources for that episode. And she said, "I'm excited to share with you both that we have an upcoming Battletown Witch Festival, which is going to be on October 29th. And I can't go because that's the state high school band competition. And so I'll be busy all day with that with Lauren.
I've already volunteered to do it's like the Boo Wow, the animal shelters for their like coffee and stuff. Their coffee source. So.
Well, it's October 29th. You can learn more about it at battletownwitch.com. And so I think it'd be awesome to go to. It's from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. that day. Okay, so it also says, "I have also been doing some extensive research into Leah Smock over the last year. She is so much more interesting than what I previously wrote. There were several things that I got wrong in the article using old sources." And then she said, "I have learned that she was not born in Battletown and in fact only lived there for 2 years. That is how much and how fast of an impression she made on the people. She was the last witch burned in America. She's like, I know what I had previously wrote and I wanted to correct it directly. It seems like she was one of several that were burned in Kentucky. This terrible tradition comes from German immigrants. The last witch burning in Germany was supposedly in 1775, and around 40,000 accused witches were burned during the Würzburg witch trials. I bet you that's Würzburg witch trials. Würzburg witch trials. These were the worst witch trials in Europe. There are some other nefarious things around her death that I'm currently trying to get to the bottom of. If you're interested in learning more, The Battletown Witch Festival is October 29th in Brandenburg, Kentucky. Thanks so much and great episode. Annie Hamilton, Emont.
Emont.
Yes, Emond. And I'll keep an eye out for her updated article.
Right.
Okay, so that's the update on Leah Smock. Do you have an episode?
I do.
Now that we're 10 minutes in.
When I was doing this one, I was like, man, I've talked a lot about like people poisoning people, but it's interesting.
I don't have a problem with it.
People killing people is what we're about, really. So I am doing my episode on Charles Bravo.
Charles
Johnny.
Bravo.
Yeah,
Johnny Bravo.
Johnny Charles Bravo. He was born in 1845. He was born Charles Delany Turner.
You mean Bravo wasn't his God-given name?
No. But his stepfather, who loved him good.
Loved him good.
Loved him good. Hey, it's probably like one
he
of those.
done loved him good.
Hey, dude, it's like one of those times that you just like adopt a family and you just love them so good that they like take on your name.
He loved him real good.
He loved him real good and real lovely like.
Were you making fun of farmers?
I'm making fun of every farmer I could see out here. Anyways. Charles Turner took on his stepdad's name, Bravo. We're going to skip ahead in his life to his marriage. He married Florence, and Florence has a background. Great. She's a little wild child in the 1800s. She had previously been married to an Alexander Ricardo, but they decided to separate because they weren't seeing eye to eye, and he's being seen in other women's eyes.
They were married, and they didn't see eye to eye on how he should not see other women.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
But, I mean,
in the 1800s, Megan, you do what you're told. She didn't. She definitely
seems like a baseline.
And guess what else? Guess what else he did? He partook in the adult juice. He liked that.
What sort of adult juice?
Like probably bourbon and gin and what else did they drink back then?
They drank everything.
Moonshine. Oh yeah, but he liked it a lot.
Okay.
So she said, "Peace out, A-Town." So she said he would just get like really violent when he was drinking. And then she was like, I'm going to start dating this doctor, James Gully. It's going to be great.
Listen, just because he's a doctor does not mean he's great.
No, because he was married at the time.
Well, of course.
Right. And her family was like, she's a lot right now. So,
her family was?
Yeah. They were like, she's acting out. They just kind of started ignoring her and were just like pushing her away. Like she's just a mess.
I mean, I guess there is a point of like, we understand why you left your marriage.
Right.
But you also can't go off
and get wild with other people's husbands.
Yeah.
But also other people's husbands shouldn't get wild. I don't know. Say 1800s.
It's never just one person.
Right. Exactly. Oh, by the way, her first husband ends up dying.
The one that she left.
Yeah.
Because he liked other women.
Yeah. But alcohol. But he just died of unknown causes. That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
Are you foreshadowing?
Yeah. So she was in her mid-20s. Charles was about 30 when they met. And they just hit it off. They fell in love, and she's like, man, this is the one that's going to make me settle down.
What happened to the Gully? What happened to Dr. Gully?
He's in the shadows.
Okay. But then she meets Charles.
Yeah.
But Dr. Gully was married anyway.
Right, yeah. So they get married pretty quickly, like you do in the 1800s, because what else do you have to do?
Florence and Charles?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, they got married because they're both she's in her mid-20s. She's
that's really
an old maid. They're they don't have long left.
Yeah. But it said that she came from money, so she was used to having big lavish parties and doing all these things. And even though he had money because, he worked his butt off for it, he was a penny pincher. And so he was like, stop it. Just stop spending. Like, stop doing what you're doing. Like, let's not.
He's like Agatha Christie.
Yeah, you're going overboard. Like, enough's enough. She's like, nope, I'm going to start throwing some parties and I'm going to live my life the way I want to, but I'm still going to be married. So she host a Christmas party with 30 guests, and, you know, she lives it up. And he's like, okay, whatever. Like, we're doing it, I guess. We're doing this. And so that just kind of like started the ball rolling.
I'm surprised that was his response.
Well,
because, you know, he was the man in that marriage in the 1800s. It seems like he could have been
he ends up being like that. Yeah. Because he's just like, why is she so disobedient? Probably in like, I was like murmuring at the party, like, why didn't she listen to me? We're here with all these 30 people, and she really didn't listen to me. Is that person spilling that on my rug right now? And I'm going to have to clean that later. How much did she spend on all this alcohol?
Like, I don't even necessarily think it's wrong for him to be like, if they had discussed this.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm not comfortable with you going all out and spending this crazy money on this party. I get why he would be annoyed.
Right.
That she just totally doesn't care.
Yeah.
Because, you know, marriage is a partnership. Theoretically.
So Charles occasionally would have to go away for work, but he would still send her letters while he was gone. In the letters, she would say, apart from the beginning of my first marriage, this was the happiest time of my life.
So this is the second happiest time.
I'm like, wow, you could have left that out.
How romantic. Like, honey, I would never lie to you.
She was like,
so just so you know, you've almost made me the happiest.
Yes, she said, this has been the happiest I've been. And you're just like, oh, wow.
You're definitely second place.
Oh, God, I love you a lot.
Good Lord.
But then all of a sudden, Charles gets this weird letter, and it's from an unknown source, and it's like, we know you just married her for her money. And he's like, huh.
He's like, how'd you know? Crap.
Yeah, and he's like, well, I do know about this Dr. Gully guy that I've been ignoring, and I'm wondering if it's him.
Oh, so she's still seeing him too?
So he started obsessing over Dr. Gully.
Well, as you would.
Yeah. When he was home, he started telling Flo, that's what I'm going to call her,
Flo,
that he expected total obedience from her in all things because he's the man. And wives are supposed to listen to their husbands. And he needs to keep her in line. Got to keep her in check.
Now, listen, I know we're all annoyed hearing that, right?
Yeah.
We're all like, what?
Huh?
But this is going to come up. I'm working on an episode right now that we're not recording yet, but I talk about this then too. It is very easy for our 2022 brains to be like, he said what?
Oh, yeah.
But also in the 1800s.
That's what you did.
Yeah. And a lot of marriages were like utilitarian almost. Like it wasn't about, you did have to have.
It was like a business transaction.
Right.
Yeah.
This is your business partner. And if she's not going to do the things that you think wives are supposed to do, then you're going to find a different business partner because it's more about making your family and home run the way you want it run.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like being treated like a child now, we'd be like, what? I'm a human being.
Yeah.
Talk to me. Right.
Yeah.
But it's not even about whether it's right or wrong. It's just what it was.
Yeah. That was the lifestyle.
Yeah.
We can't change it. Okay. So he finally was like, things are going to have to change. We're starting to fall apart here. It's often been quoted in a lot of these articles going back to women being obedient. Like if a man said you had to have sex with him, you had to have sex with him. And so she was quoted in several of these saying, I don't believe this is true. Like, I believe I should be able to decide on my own.
Yeah. Who I'm going to let literally inside my body.
Yeah.
At what point?
Yeah.
It seems like you should have some say in that.
Yeah. So he started struggling with that too. With her, like, telling him no. No means no. Okay. So then he was like, you got to stop spending so much money. We need to get rid of your personal maid. And she and her personal maid were so close. Like, her maid came with her from the previous marriage. And they were just inseparable.
The previous marriage where the man died and we don't know how.
Exactly. Right. And she was like, don't get rid of my maid. She's been around longer than you have. He just was like, we need to get rid of the gardener. Let's get rid of some of the horses. And she got super angry about it. She's like, I'm not doing any of this. And he was like, if you don't get your act together, I'm going to leave you. And she's like, do it.
It's done been rotten.
And she knew that if he left her, even though he had some money of his own, she was the one with all the money, like the family money and stuff, and like the money from previous marriage and stuff. Yeah, she was like, I'll be fine. Go at it. Like, do what you need to do. See ya. Bye. Oh, what? Everything you want from the box to the left.
In the closet, that's what's done.
Okay. She ended up pregnant, and she decided she was going to go to her parents for a few days. And then she was like, I can't be a single mom.
Now it matters.
Yeah, like now, because this is going to look really bad. Like, it's 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
So she went back, and he was just like, I love you so much. Like, things are going to change. I mean, I do need you to talk to me, though, about the maid leaving. I just really think that she's not needed.
Mm-hmm.
And so they just really thought about the maid needing to go. And in his mind, it says that he had mentioned to several people that he thought the reason that Florence was being so just like out there and like doing her own thing was the maid. He thought the maid was encouraging her to be independent. And so that's why he was like, okay, well, maybe the maid has a tie on her, and if she's gone, then she'll obey me more.
Oh, I see. Mm-hmm. So he just saw the maid as the problem.
Yeah.
That would kind of magically fix everything?
Yeah.
I doubt it.
Yeah. But. And then soon after being home, she has a miscarriage. And she was like, I'm mentally, physically, I need a trip to Worthington. I just need to recover. Like, I just need my space. Like, this is just a lot on me. I'm getting older. And this is just like, I thought I was with child and now I'm not. Like, this is a lot. And he like hit her. And he's like, how dare you think about leaving and going off on your own right now?
Oh.
Yeah. 2 weeks after she had a miscarriage, everybody knows that you have to wait like several weeks.
Yeah, you gotta wait a few weeks before you can
have sex again.
Knock boots.
2 weeks after, he insists that they try again. And even though she didn't want to, they did. And
the problem with this story is I don't like either one of them.
No, I know. I don't either.
So I'm just like, I mean, yeah, I feel bad for her, but she's so unlikable.
I know.
But I do feel bad for her.
Right. And she miscarried again.
She got pregnant again?
Yeah.
I
miscarried again. Sorry. 2 weeks later. Like 2 weeks later, got pregnant again.
What?
How is that even possible?
I don't think that's possible.
After that first miscarriage, she got pregnant after 2 weeks. She carried that one for less than a month.
Do we know how long she carried the first one? I just feel like her blood levels wouldn't be back down to zero.
Right,
yet.
exactly.
So I just wonder if it was just well, of course, they probably didn't check blood. When did that
Right,
start?
exactly. Who knows?
Scientifically.
Who knows?
As a doctor myself,
this does not check all the boxes.
I just don't think it's possible. But anyway.
She had been known to have some gynecological problems growing up and stuff too. So honestly, I don't know what that entails either, because how much exploration could they do?
I don't know. They used to eat mummies.
People jerky.
I don't know how to feel about any medical opinion from the Victorian age.
Yeah. After that, little miscarriage.
Her second possible miscarriage.
Charles starts getting sick. Yeah. On his way to work in London, he's like, oh, I gotta sit down. Like, I'm real nauseous. Man, I'm really sick. But then he's at work, away from home. Everything gets a little bit better. By the end of the day, he feels okay. So April, 1876, Charles decides to go out riding his horse. And he returns to the house, and he's just like freaking out. Everybody's like, what the heck is happening? His horse got spooked by something, ran away with him on it. And he's just like visibly shaken. And they're like, oh, just sit down. Like, you're okay. Let's get you a hot bath. Like, what's going on with you? So Florence and the
machine.
Exactly.
How many songs can we fit in this episode, do you think?
A lot.
Let's see.
A lot, because it's been a bit since we've been together in person. Jane Cox, who was the housekeeper, who I've like her good friend that stayed with them, were like, okay, we're going to fix dinner. You just
relax.
Take your bath and come meet up with us.
Okay.
So he joined them. And during dinner, he got a letter from his stepfather, Joseph, with a stockbroker's report, which he received by mistake. And it said that Charles had suffered some losses in the market. And he was just like really angry during dinner.
Oh, because he just found out he lost money. Okay.
Yeah. It's quoted, Florence said, his face worked the whole of dinner and he had such a strange yellow look. I thought he would go mad at any moment. They said that his bad mood didn't get any better, so he started drinking.
That always helps.
Yeah. And so she was like, okay, I'm going to have him sleep in his own room tonight. And Jane, do you just mind spending the night with me? I just haven't recovered from my miscarriage. And I'm just really scared. And he's upset in there. Like, just spend the night with me.
Okay. Like for her own protection.
Yeah. Charles goes to bed in his own room.
Uh-huh.
Because Jane and Florence are in the other room because she needed her to stay with her for comfort. And honestly, she probably was terrified because he was angry.
Like just to block her husband.
Yeah, exactly. But also, was she staying in there to be witness that she was in the room with her the whole entire night? Charles has a toothache and he takes this medication that's like alcohol and opium. And that's all he claims he takes. But then he wakes up in the middle of the night just violently ill. And it says he's like, comes running out of his room. He's crying. He's in pain. Jane comes running out and she's like, what is happening? Like, what is going on with you? He collapsed and was unconscious. So Florence, she wakes up and she goes and gets a doctor. And the doctor's like, I'm pretty sure he's been poisoned. But I don't know how. I don't see a trace of it in the house. So I don't know what could have been used. They take Charles to the hospital. And he said, well, I did take this for like my facial pain or whatever, my toothache. And
so the medicine he took, he just got that himself? Or did someone give it to him? I mean, I think if Florence is asleep, then...
Just as he took it.
Okay, so he probably just had it already.
Yeah. And the doctors at the hospital are like, sir, we think you've been poisoned. And he's just like, I don't know. I took this medication for my facial problems. Like, that's the only thing I knew I took.
But I guess we also don't,
like,
why was he having facial problems? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, could that be like the start of...
Before he even took that medicine.
Right. He has a will, leaves everything to Florence, and dies on April 21st. So nobody ever knew, like, he never said, yeah, someone slipped this in my drink, or I saw her put this in my food, or, oh, by the way, there was a couple weeks ago when I was feeling really ill at work, but got better that night or whatever.
So he didn't even suspect her of anything. Because you think if he's dying, you think he would say, my wife did this.
Right. They said that they took some of his vomit to collect as a specimen to test for like poisons and stuff, which is...
I'm so glad there are other people who do those jobs.
Yeah. My gosh. So police, I mean, it's the 1800s, so I don't know what investigations looked like back then and how extensive they were. Like what? I don't know. Looking into it, they said that Florence started keeping her money to herself towards the end and taking care of her own finances. And they were like, well, that's kind of questionable. But then also some of them were like, well, if he was starting to drink more and like demanding that she didn't spend her money and doing all this, then maybe that's why.
Right.
There's so many different people that are just saying, okay, well, it was her, or it was Jane, or it was the doctor that she was seeing on the side. One of the things they were saying was that he was slowly poisoning her with small doses of antimony, tartar emetic. I don't know what that does.
Just some kind of poison.
And some people were like, okay, well, this kind of explains why she was sick after the marriage, and maybe it had something to do with the miscarriages.
Oh yeah. So like he was poisoning her.
Yeah, so then they were like, okay, well, maybe he had this and he was treating himself for the toothache before bedtime and accidentally took the poison instead of the stuff for
so like he was poisoning her and then accidentally took the poison?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's almost like you want that to be true.
What a twist of tales. And so then the housekeeper was like, well, he told me that he's used that on himself.
Poison?
Yeah.
But why would he use it on himself?
Well, some people said that he tried to commit suicide.
Oh.
So they said that after they examined him post-mortem, he had 20 to 30 grains of antimony in his system. They were like, okay, well, he
Maybe it
died
was
from this, so
suicide.
maybe it was suicide. It's a similar thing to arsenic, so it's going to do similar things to you.
I guess what I don't get about that is where's that theory coming from that he was poisoning her? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, because you could just as easily say all this in the
Right.
other direction, right?
Right. Well, and this theory didn't show up until he had died,
Uh-huh.
and people were pointing fingers and trying to point fingers away from themselves.
Oh.
So another theory is the housekeeper killed him because he kept threatening to get rid of her, and she really needed the job. She was a widow. She had a lot of debt. Her kids were in private school, and she really was living off of the funds of working for Charles and Florence.
Mm-hmm.
So
I guess a lot of people had motives to kill him.
Right. And then Agatha Christie suspected Florence's ex-lover, the James Gully, like one of her
Dr. Gully?
secret lover.
Just wanted him out of the way.
Mm-hmm. So nobody really knows. And she died 2 years later from alcohol poisoning.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So you're just like, okay, but was this like because she felt guilty and she was just drinking herself to.
Right.
They had a little trial before she had passed, too.
Before Florence died?
Yeah. And they just, they would go back and forth, and they just questioned Dr. Gully, and they brought out, their secret relationship, too. So they're just, running her name in the mud, and she's just, freaking out about it. But then when they get him on the stand, Dr. Gully on the stand, he admits to the affair, but he was like, listen, I had nothing to do with this poisoning. I was not there. I did not provide her with anything. He was just very calm, cool, and collected. He was just like...
Right. We had an affair, but I didn't care.
Right. This is just a mess I got in, and...
That's the problem, I guess, is a lot of it seems like a lot of people had different motives. Mm-hmm. And, she was not a faithful wife, but the leap from that to murder...
Right. Right. And it even said while she was on the stand, she kept begging the coroner to protect her from all of these questions from Charles's family, representing Charles's family. They were just berating her with... yeah. On August 11th, there's no hard evidence, and the jury's just we find that Charles Turner Bravo didn't commit suicide. He didn't meet his death by misadventure, that he was willfully murdered by the administration of Charter and Metric, but there's not sufficient evidence to fix the guilt upon any person or persons.
So we know he was murdered, but we don't know who did it.
Yeah.
So all they really succeeded here was just to be it definitely wasn't suicide.
Right, yeah. So it said after the trial, and this is probably what led Florence to drinking herself to death, but it said that she just, they threw her name all around the mud with all the questions, all the things about Dr. Gully, just all these things. Her family was like, we can't do this anymore. Mm-hmm. We can't support you. We're disowning you.
Oh, wow.
So she moves, like I said, died at 33 from alcohol poisoning. Dr. Gully's reputation in business was just completely ruined, as well as his social representation. He died in 1883. And then Jane returned to Jamaica with her sons, and she received a substantial inheritance from her husband's aunt.
Oh.
Yeah. So she
lived. She did all right then.
She was totally fine. And she died in 1913. But it's just still a mystery. Right. It's a mystery. And like I said, there's so many theories. And then some people are saying that this poison was slipped into his water when he was drunk and in bed. Mm-hmm. And then detectives said suicide just because he had access to it. But
yeah.
And they eliminated Dr. Gully too, because they were just he's nowhere near the scene. His butler said he was giving his blessing to them. He was just fine with them being married. I'll just see you when I see you type thing. But it's just and then also Jane probably knew about her fortune and she just, so why would she want to do it unless she was doing it for Florence?
It's also it was the Victorian age. So do we even know that there wasn't some other medical explanation for his death?
Right, exactly.
But I guess they found the poison in his system.
So like I mentioned in the beginning, it says that antimony was used by women in the Victorian times to control their husband's alcohol addiction, which in small quantities would make them just sick and make them throw up and stuff. So they would just be like, oh, I can't do this.
I mean, that is a medicine they give alcoholics now, right?
Yeah. And so her first husband was an alcoholic, but he wasn't dead. He ended up dead.
And we just don't know any more about that.
Mm-hmm. So they said that she had plenty of experience with this poison and knew how much was too much to give. And then also a lot of people said that she had mentioned that she was terrified that he was going to continue to force her to try to get pregnant again. And she thought that if she got pregnant again, a third baby would kill her. So,
gosh, it's so complicated.
Yeah. And then they said the glass by the bed, like the detective said there was no glass by the bed. What did he take his medicine with?
Oh, so someone may have gotten rid of that.
Yeah. And then they go on to say it's a tragic story which highlights how poor a woman's standing was back then. To be so afraid to have another baby or have to be forced to have sex so you kill your husband.
Yeah.
I guess.
It's still not an excuse to kill your husband, though. Like,
yeah.
But I get the point they're making, that it was almost like, would you really feel like that's your only answer?
Right.
Like the only possible way to avoid having to go through this again would be to kill him?
But, I mean, she was...
Honestly, maybe it was.
Maybe. Because maybe she thought that this was like her last. She had one husband before this, and she's already had a miscarriage or two, and so she's just like, I'm stuck.
And maybe she was using that medicine to try to control his alcoholism and gave him too much. And maybe she had done the same thing, not even on purpose. Maybe it was just careless.
She didn't know how to use it.
Yeah. Or maybe it was on purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Who knows, though? We'll never know.
What do you think?
I think she did it.
I mean, I'm inclined to think she did it too.
Yeah.
I think because it's like, even if I were to say her first husband was an accident.
Right. And we don't know that he died by poisoning. We just know that she had access to it because of his alcoholism.
And he had taken that same poison that ended up killing her second husband too. I mean,
yeah.
But even if we were to say
murders.
The first one was an accident, the second one, it's almost just like, would it really happen again as an accident?
Right. People have been.
But I also get how there was reasonable doubt.
Owls attack people.
Yeah. The owl did it. An owl came in and dropped poison in his.
And took the glass with him after he drank it.
That's the only possible answer. Flew away. It's gone. All right, call whoever we need to call.
Okay, from the 1800s. We did it.
Call Doctor Who. Okay. Thank you all for listening.
Yes.
We'll be back on Tuesday with another episode.
Yeah.
We love you
so much.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.